All right, so I'm just starting to do some videos on true sidereal human design. I want to kind of talk about and address some of the questions that have come up. And so for this question, I'm going to address, this is from the Cosmic Human Design Facebook group. I'm not going to credit the person unless they want to be credited, in which case I'm happy to put that in the description of the video. I feel like when you're quoting people in a public forum, they don't always want to be associated with the comment. As I'm approaching this almost kind of as a newscaster would. So the question is, I have to say, anyone getting their genetic matrix chart, for me, it was like seeing the chart of someone almost exactly opposite of who I am. Right away, it was an instant no. It seems like it's pretty common to have that reaction, and it's different to many people's reaction to the true sidereal one. I just saw mine after someone in the group got it for me. Who else felt that? Okay, so this is a question that's basically, just to give a little context, this is a question of somebody who has gone on the Genetic Matrix website where you can kind of get your human design chart using the tropical zodiac, the conventional human design chart as we've had it up until now. And what they've done is they've changed it to a sidereal chart, presumably with the precession set to 22 and change degrees, 22 degrees in 55 minutes or something, And what they've done is they've changed the precession to that using the Fagan-Bradley, and in doing so, and then they've generated a chart using that modification or alteration, and they're just saying, wow, this is not me. When I see this chart, it's not me. But then they're saying when they do the true sidereal, which I believe is 26 degrees, or at least, is a different modification. In that case, what they're doing is saying that a lot of people are actually seeing that this is really them. That people out there are saying that this is really them. Okay, well, people out there are saying is just an anecdote. It's not even an anecdote, actually. Anecdotes actually have more validity than just saying people out there are saying. Because people out there are not saying that their chart, is more accurate through sidereal. They're not. A lot of people aren't anyway. Some are, some aren't, I guess. But this really gets to the question of what is it to validate your human design chart? Is it that you recognize yourself in the chart, right? Is it the recognition of yourself in the chart that is the validation of the chart? I say no. I say this is a fundamental difference between astrology and other descriptive techniques that paint a picture of the person versus the human design experiment, which is more prescriptive in nature. Try strategy and authority. Stop doing this, start doing that. Don't sleep alone, this and this and this and this. It's very dogmatic, it's very prescriptive. It's not necessarily a descriptive system. It appears to be a descriptive system because it is showing you a map of who you are and who you're not. And it's showing you a map of your life force energy as it flows in your body and as it impacts others and how it plugs into them and how they plug into you and where you have receptors and where you're constantly broadcasting and all this stuff. So it seems to be descriptive, and I suppose the attribute side of it is descriptive, right? The attributes of your body graph are kind of akin to astrology. And yet, it's a prescriptive system. And the validation occurs when the prescription is followed and you get a result. And if you don't get the result, it doesn't work, right? So what I'm trying to say is, I guess, the way of validating, as I understand it for myself, and as I understand that Ra describes it, is that you try the experiment. You do the experiment. And that's very different than seeing yourself in it. So again, here's anyone getting their genetic matrix chart. For me, it was like seeing a chart of someone almost exactly opposite. Right away, it's an instant no. It's pretty common to have that reaction, all this stuff. So this is what the person is saying is kind of like, do they see themselves in it? Their criterion for validity is their ability to perceive themselves in what is being presented to them. This is the astrological criterion, conventionally. conventional astrological kind of de facto, not necessarily rigueur, for instance, not the rigorous one, but the de facto one. And the de facto astrological standard of basically seeing yourself in it has been called by skeptics the Barnum effect. And there's a lot of attempts at this, the same with Myers-Briggs and other systems, where they go, the attempt is basically to show a sufficiently vague description that everyone will see themselves in it. Someone who likes people but also values their alone time. Someone who is assertive and direct but also polite. Someone who, and you go on and on and on. And then based on this description, there's the Barnum effect, or kind of the Fourier effect. These are kind of related, and it's been a while since I've looked them up. But I know that they're kind of used by skeptics to essentially describe these effects whereby an individual sees themselves in something. And it's also very similar to just the simple fact that someone who's an expert in a field will be better at judging who's an expert in a field, and will kind of, you know what I mean? Like if you look at how, not to get off on too much on a tangent, but if someone says they're an artist, doesn't make them an artist. What makes them an artist is a bunch of other respected artists or respected art critics calling them an artist. And so building your own status in some sense is a social phenomenon that is a constructed phenomenon. And so I guess I got on this because I'm really thinking a lot about, how do these things work? How does it work to say this is me, to look at the chart and say this is me, or this is how I operate, or this is a map of myself? And I guess, I got off on that tangent because I was thinking kind of along the lines of someone who says I'm an artist is not necessarily an artist. Someone who says I recognize myself in this chart does not necessarily mean that chart represents them. The skeptics who use the Fourier, I believe it's called, or the Barnum effect, to describe seeing yourself in something that, that's not really you. And also the challenge that not knowing something makes you a bad judge of whether you're whether you're good or bad at it. I hate to use, I don't believe there's something as simple as intelligence. I believe there are, intelligences, one for every kind of, there's aptitudes, it's as simple as that, right? There are aptitudes. And so it's not like there's one intelligence. I don't mean to imply there is, but there are aptitudes. And if we could pretend for a moment there is one intelligence, well, the smart people are going to know who the smart and the dumb people are. The dumb people are not going to be able to tell who the smart and the dumb people are because they're dumb. I hate to put it so simply because obviously that's not the case, because intelligence is so multivariant, and this is what we find with human design with right variable versus left variable. This is what we find, the different kinds of intelligence that can seem invisible. The rave children may have intelligences far beyond our comprehension that seem invisible to us, and yet we can see the intelligence of a left variable person. You can see the intelligence of action when it leaps into action, the action tone, for instance. Or you can see, which is tone 3 on the personality Sun Earth. Or you can see tone 1 or tone 2, but you might not be able to see tone 4, 5, or 6 because they're right variable, because they're holistic, because they're flow state, because they're not targeted, they're not constantly calibrating. As I'm talking, I have a left variable mind. As I'm talking, I'm continually steering the conversation back to the topic at hand. It might seem that I stray, but I stray only to better, wrap together a number of strands so as to paint a picture or to approach a topic from many different angles so as to better understand that topic. It is a rumination. It is a chewing. It is a digestive process. It is a pacing and a walking around and a contemplating and a surveying. Derrida said the writer is like a runner, the jogger, who you're their running partner, and they tell you, oh, up ahead, we have to turn to the left. And don't miss looking out that direction because there's And so as a good writer of, what I'm presenting, my research, I see myself as somewhat of a surveyor. I'm less of a runner, perhaps, and more of a, ponderous, almost in the spirit of the I Ching or the spirit of the Feng Shui, where they say that the flow of qi should be a contemplative, kind of meandering, philosophical walk. We're going on a walk together. So part of this walk, part of this rumination about true sidereal is how you validate your human design chart. And in human design, you validate it by following the prescription. You follow strategy and authority. You experiment. You experiment with your PHS. You experiment with your environment. Strategy and authority is always the fundamental, but the experiment involves really a number of prescriptions, or even a description almost acts as a prescription, because it prescribes, here is a bucket for you to fill with experience and to see the explanatory power of this bucket. So, I don't want to get too much into the prescription, description thing, other than to say that I believe that there is a difference in how you validate human design body graphs compared to astrology body graphs. And the difference is, with the human design body graph, you're continually validating over time. And the amount of time you've had with that body graph, experimenting, following the prescriptions of it. And part of those prescriptions are that, I have 12-3, for instance, stuck in detriment. So failed mutation, saying the wrong thing, exaggerated self-hatred over having said the wrong thing and regretting it. And so part of that bucket is, I'm told that, and it's unconscious for me, and I might not realize that about myself. But yet I have a bucket, and I go, okay, be on the lookout for this. Track this. It's a metaphysical research project. Thomas Kuhn had a very interesting model of science where he basically had a model of research programs, that there are various research programs that are carried out that are kind of separate from each other. They don't really share a common language. They're walled gardens. They're not connected, really. And these different research programs, each with their own vocabulary, are each trying to come up with taxonomies and with theories and concepts, and they're looking for things that have explanatory power, basically. And I think it's the same thing. True Sidereal is another research program. And it should be a research program. We should all be able to research, and in fact encouraged to research, and even to break free, in the same way that Gene Keys is a different research program, in the same way that Steve Rhodes has a different research program, in the same way that Karen Curry Parker is doing her own research program, in the same way that Chetan Parkin is doing his own research program. Someone like, I would say that Alok, for instance, is not doing a different research program. He is part of the Human Design Research Program. I am not doing a different research program. I am part of the same research program. We have a shared vocabulary, right? I'm doing the same research program that Ra was doing, and that Alok is doing, and that Lavina is doing, and John Cole is doing, and Cinzia Mastro Simone is doing, and the vast majority of OG human design people are doing. The ones that haven't split off to Gene Keys or something, which none of them really did. It's the newcomers who go to that. That's what's funny. I think I'll save it for the next one, where I want to talk about fractal lines. Fractal lines have been on my mind a lot lately. But for now, I'll just say it's a very interesting time in the human design community. I'm very happy to be a part of it. I'm happy to have a YouTube platform of people who are willing to listen to me, who enjoy commenting and discussing. And I'm happy to be talking to you all about this. I'm eager to interview Richard next week, and I'm looking forward to much more discussion to come. Thanks for watching.